Now current assistant coach of the Kings, former King, and of course, former KHTK afternoon co-host Doug Christie is with us. Doug, I appreciate the time. I know you're a very busy guy. Let's get right to it. Before we get to your thoughts on ARCO and your history with the team, I want to talk about the team right now, especially De'Aaron Fox. Just some thoughts from you about his level of play since that trade involving Halliburton and Sabonis.
The word that comes to mind, Nick, is special. I think that we've seen a steady escalation in De'Aaron Fox's game from the time that he was a rookie in this league. There was a bit of a bump. For me, I don't equate three-pointers and all that stuff. He's just a special player, man. He has the ability to do everything, and he's been doing it at an extremely high level. I mean, he's a top three guard in the league right now with the numbers that he's putting up, and against some of these really good teams, it's not like he's just going out against some of the bad teams and putting up numbers. They're throwing everything at him. He's delivering, and Kings fans should be mighty happy about that.
I want to talk about this week with this team. I talked to Coach Gentry yesterday at this time, and we talked about the game against Chicago, talked about the game against Milwaukee on Wednesday. Two highly competitive games, Doug, against two top four Eastern Conference teams. What have you seen from the guys this week and really going into these games? Was there a palpable difference, or you just think they're starting to figure some things out?
I think it's the latter, Nick. I think that you start to figure things out, and winning is difficult, man. It's a process that a lot of people don't like to go through. You don't necessarily understand it. These games, they come down to 8 points, 10 points, 12 points, but there's a point in the game where there's 90 seconds of basketball that really determine the game, and we're still learning how to digest that part of basketball. And that's not on just the offensive end. Like, sometimes the offense gets a little sluggish, but then that's on the defensive end, making sure that when a guy gets hot, we're understanding how to slow him down and how to stop him. And when things really come together is when both of those things happen at the same time, and that's what really good teams do. And that's what we faced versus Milwaukee. All of a sudden, we were good enough, and all of a sudden they took a little lead, started hitting a lot of shots. We maybe forced a couple, and that was the game. It was about 90 seconds worth, and the game is pretty much in the balance.
Absolutely. Doug Christie is with us here on the Nick Cattle Show, Sports 1140 KHTK. All right, so you go from Chicago to Milwaukee with Giannis, and now tonight it's the Celtics. I know a lot of Kings fans looking at this week said, man, that's a murderer's row. You win Monday. You play a tight game, as you just mentioned, came down to 90 seconds against the Bucks on Wednesday. Now you got the Celtics and Jason Tatum. Your thoughts on Tatum as you get ready to face him tonight at Golden One, Doug?
He's big time, man. He's really starting to expand his game to the finishing aspect of it, meaning he's put together some 50-point games. They have been on an incredible roll. There was a lot of criticism, in that Boston area about they just haven't lived up to it, and all of a sudden, here they go. They're starting to win ball games. Special, you think of his ability down the stretch to not only take tough shots, but to make them. And that is going to be the growth of that team. If he can continue to go in that direction, Brown as well is a fantastic two-way player. This is a tough team, and he is the head of it when you talk about him.
Coach, Sadiq Bey had a 50-burger last night. That is the 8th 50-point or more game this month in the NBA. We haven't seen scoring in a month like this since the early 1960s. Has the league ever been deeper with top-end talent than it is now?
I mean, especially to your point, Nick, when you talk about where the league is as far as talent and as far as shooting, there's been so much value put on the three-point shot, and I don't think that we've seen prolific shooting like this in the NBA in quite some time. Now, there was a time when you had downtown Freddie Brown, and there wasn't a three-point line, but he was about as prolific as you get. But when you look at the guys putting up the numbers that they're putting up, it can make a defensive coordinator cringe. It can make defensive people cringe. But Sadiq Bey, man, he's been playing. If you watched him, I know that everyone doesn't watch Detroit, but I've scouted him and I've watched him, and to watch him continue to improve. It was just a 3-point shot. Now he's putting it on the deck a little bit.
Yep.
When you get 50, you're gonna have to draw some fouls, and he's been a special player.
Doug Christie with us, current assistant coach, of course, for your Kings, also a former King. Used to work here at KHTK in the afternoons with Jason Ross on the Nick Cattle Show here, Sports 1140 KHTK. Coach, let's look at some of your old times now with the Kings. When the team was known as the greatest show on court, you guys were on the cover of SI. What kind of swag did this team have?
Jason Williams, white chocolate type of swag, man. For me, Nick, it was about year 8, I think, when I got here, right around there, and I had been on bad teams, and I had been on the Knicks, I had been on good teams as well, but prior to arriving here, and the love can leave from the game a little bit sometimes when business gets involved in basketball, and when I got here, that swag that you're talking about immediately just came upon my body and just was like, here we go. We're gonna ride with it. And the ability of Jay Will, C. Webb, Arenu Vlade, for us to just kind of galvanize together and play a style of basketball that, to that point, the behind-the-back passes and all that, coach would tell you don't do it because it's fancy. And then Coach Pete Carrill, who's probably one of the, most conservative guys that you'll ever meet, he was the one that instructed me that if it's required, it is not fancy. So you need to practice it enough to be efficient enough at it to deliver it when it's required. And we probably made the requirement more times than not, but the point the flag was on 1,000, man.
All right, let's talk about Game 7 in 0-2. I know you don't really want to look back at that, but I got to ask you, what was the feeling like in the locker room after that game? To be honest, man, it was a blur, man. I think I stopped in the locker room. To this day, I'm kind of a little bit blurry on it because I left the arena with my uniform on. I must have grabbed my keys, but I didn't drive because I was too messed up. So my assistant coach from high school drove me home. I think it was shock more than anything, to be honest with you. We knew we were better than them, and there was no way in hell when I left my house, when I drove to the arena that day, there was no way that I didn't think we were going to win. It wasn't like super nerves or anything. Once I hit the court, there was a flush of just, I don't know. Everything after that was kind of a blank. I would say probably shock would be the term that I would use, though, Nick. At that time, did you guys feel like you had a couple more years left, a couple more times to run at a championship? Did you ever think that would be pretty much it?
I think we would have if we won. I think that's kind of how it goes. When you watch championship teams, if you win one, they usually have like a two-year window where they are like, because it just gives you a boost of confidence that, like what we saw in Milwaukee the other night. There would have been, if they hadn't won a championship, I think that there would have been a time in that game the other night where they would not have been able to do what they did. I think they would have folded a little bit. But they are very comfortable in taking and making that shot, and taking and making and being in that situation. I had never been in a double overtime Game 7 to go to the NBA Finals, and I learned so much about myself in that particular instance. So if we win that and we go and crush New Jersey like we most likely would have, well, now I think we're different. I don't want to say cocky, but there's a confidence that comes with that is special, and it takes you for a couple of years for sure.
Last one for you, Doug, and again, thanks for the time. Is there a day that goes by where you're not reminded about the Fox Punch? And what's the second most common memory that fans bring up to you? And maybe just give us your greatest memory with ARCO.
Every day somebody says that the Kings just they just licensed a shirt of me as a mechanical being punching a Rick Fox mechanical being. It's pretty sweet, actually. I got one myself. But yeah, someone always brings it up. It's just kind of Kings lore and what goes on. When I think about ARCO, though, Nick, as I know this thing is coming up on tomorrow, and buildings are buildings. ARCO, with its name and all that, it was made fun of, and until we started smacking people, and then all of a sudden it was like, whoa, man, you do not want to go in there, because the metal and the wood and the sound that it made when the creaks and just the jumping up and down, it was so loud. Like, buildings they're built tighter now, so they don't make that type of noise. This thing was like it would come alive as its own thing. And what made that thing special, it wasn't the building, it was the people. That's what it was. These people they're truly special, man. And when they galvanize together like freaking Voltron, it's something that you can't really, I can't put it into words. You gotta witness it. ARCO didn't have all the things that Golden One has, so when we ran out of the tunnel, that was an event in itself. The people, they were already in their seats. There's nothing to go out there and see. You get your soda, you get your dog, you get your whatever, and then you sit down because the show's about to start. Well, Golden One, the building is so beautiful and incredible that they're not in their seats yet. So one of my favorite things was us back in the back, getting ready, talking, and then when I knew, like, okay, here we go, and we start running out, that thing would explode like nobody's business, man. And if you were on the other side, with the exception of the Lakers were the only one that were able to go through the gauntlet, most times you're getting smacked.
Excellent stuff, Doug. Of course, Doug Christie, current assistant coach for the Kings, former King, former member of KHTK here. I know everybody in the building misses you, Doug, but great stuff with the Kings, and I wish you good luck, good fortune moving forward as a coach, and hopefully we'll do this again soon. All right, there goes our guy, Doug Christie. Caught up with him earlier today. That's why the abrupt ending there. Of course, he has